Conversations from the front lines of the talent supply chain. This is Hireside Chats. Join us as we delve into the world of talent acquisition and explore the latest trends, challenges, opportunities, strategies, and insights from the best in the business. Get inspired by industry pioneers and seasoned veterans and discover the secrets to building powerful talent functions from their experiences. Whether you're a CEO, a seasoned HR professional, a growing business looking to scale, or someone just starting in the field, there's something for everyone. Ready for the ultimate recruitment power-up? Let's go.
Welcome to this episode of Unpacking India's Notice Period Dilemma, and this in a particular context of technology industry. And whatever we have today as employment models and the notice periods are roughly 3 decades old, continuing from other industries. We've not really looked at something that is applicable to this industry because there was a reason to create this waiting period. So we're going to delve into the aspect of why it was there, how organizations and employees, what has changed. And there's a lot that has changed, especially with better knowledge management tools, advent of technology, and the improvement in the generative AI. A lot has changed that can work in favor of both the employers and the employees to make the most of the updated technology available. And then we will examine why some other countries operate with much lesser notice periods and how they are managing change with respect to attrition in their organizations without that impacting deliverables in their own functions. So we're going to see both and look at what is the reason for this, why companies did it, why companies are continuing to do it, what could be an alternative, and why that alternative may work in the current context. So welcome to this episode where we talk about notice periods in India. Typically in the technology companies, it's either 60 or 90 days. And I've always wondered what advantages these longer notice periods provide to organizations. In the historical context, back in the day, knowledge transition and documentation took a long time. And because of these notice periods, people wanted somebody to replace them. And if every organization had the same 60-day notice period, so you have somebody leaving in 60 days, you have somebody joining in 60 days. So there's technically no overlap. And the only way overlap happened was somebody who was designated as a buffer resource within the same project, somebody that could potentially take over while the individual is serving their notice period. So you can't necessarily hire somebody as a replacement. You are backfilling somebody from within and having them go through a knowledge transition period. And the customer is not paying for 2 people. So that's some of the reasons why notice period is longer, and so that you can maximize revenue opportunity, at the same time make sure that all the tribal knowledge that the individual had is passed on so that there is no disruption to the timelines or the schedules. With improvements in AI and AI-based documentation and the way engagements are run today, and you have a variety of engagements. You have support engagements, you have brand new application development, you have SAP, Salesforce. So you have a variety of engagements which don't necessarily have any sort of dependency on the individual to carry on the activity. So if that's the case, you wonder why notice periods have to continue to remain at 60 and 90 days. So in at least countries like the US, you have a 2-week courtesy notice period. So people are able to manage whatever transition that you have with just 2 weeks. So it should be possible for us to do it in India as well. During the post-COVID hiring surge, this was also used to, from an employee point of view, create multiple opportunities from this. A longer notice period means I could go interview in 5 different companies. Even if the processing time is 20-25 days, by the time I finish my notice period, I end up with about 4 to 5 jobs and I pick the best. And every time I get a new job, it's based off of the current offer that I have and sort of inflated the employee cost in the last 24 months or so. So lesser notice periods actually help companies process candidature of one single candidate, and they don't have enough time to go and pursue multiple opportunities simultaneously, considering that not everybody can process an offer within that entire 30-day time period. So it keeps the cost as low as it can be. So it doesn't allow for unreasonable increase in the pay disparity between internal employees and new hires coming in. So that's one advantage of a shorter notice period. And it works both ways, right? When you don't have demand, when you have a lot of people on the bench Having a longer notice period means that you have to pay for a longer time. So you can avoid that by having notice periods that are in the 30-day time frame. So people have the opportunity to look out. And at the same time, companies will be forced to make their processes a lot more efficient to find that talent within that time frame. From an employee perspective, also, a shorter notice period helps. So if I'm deciding to leave an organization, I prepare. I analyze the organizations that I want to be part of. And once I hit the button, I know I have 30 days within which I need to find something else. So I apply much better clarity around career expectations, where I can go, what I like, what I don't like, and be fully ready when I take that jump option. Now that you have these 60, 90-day options, I can just apply to many companies, figure out who's hiring, who's not hiring. In a shorter notice period, you will be forced to make that choice very clearly. You will have to do that research before, arriving at that decision to leave an organization. And that sort of promotes better decision making, more informed decision making on part of the employee. And that sort of helps careers of individuals. It shapes the way they want to manage their careers better. So from an employee's perspective, the longer notice periods, like I said before, allowed for a proper transition. So today, with advent of AI or Gen AI, a lot of the documentation is automated and co-pilots. So if there is no dependency on the individual to continue work without, having an impact on the deliverables of the organization, then we'll tend to optimize your spend by having shorter notice periods. And, for employees who don't want to stay in the organization, you don't really need to prolong the agony of staying in the organization just because the notice period dictates that you have to stay for a long period. So it works both ways. So you can call it quits in just 4 weeks' time and then move on to your next gig. And I think the job market will be a lot more clear on what people want. The process will streamline itself to, run a more efficient recruiting engine and a more responsible recruiting engine. That's one of the outcomes that you can see if the notice periods reduced to 30 days, because you have to make it happen within that 30-day time frame. So candidates will upskill themselves, make them a lot more relevant for the job opportunity that they're going for. It will reduce the amount of fraud, because like I said, so you get a lot of help and you have a lot of time. When you have very limited time, then you have to sort of be at the top of your game to make the right impact the first time, because you're not going to get 4 or 5 options to try. So I feel that in a market today, so 2 years back, it was a candidate's market. So you could pretty much dictate whatever you wanted, and then that sort of makes the industry a little non-competitive. And with a more streamlined notice period and a shorter notice period, it allows for lesser juggling of such jobs, and makes the cost a lot more palatable, more streamlined, more linear. From an employee's perspective, there's a lot of tools that one has to provide to ensure that there is continuance of benefits. So I think there's some changes one needs to make in the policies to accommodate, let's say, continuance of medical benefits like COBRA in the US. So there are certain tweaks that one has to make. A shorter notice period of reality, but it's sort of, in my opinion, is beneficial to pretty much all the parties involved in the long run, because India has traditionally grappled with a limited number of employment models. One is either an FTE or a contractor. Freelancers are not mainstream yet. Gig is not mainstream yet because of various reasons around security, data privacy protection, IP, and so on and so forth. But since COVID showed the way, then organizations can classify what needs to be a real full-time job, what can be contractual, what can be just in time, what can be purely a marketplace-driven activity. Then it's easier to engage with that talent accordingly. Right? So today we don't see emergence of such marketplaces because those organizations are not willing to explore beyond tried and tested models that they're comfortable with, because the risk of not having these has not been explored. But once somebody starts, I'm pretty sure there will be a market for people who can just loan their skills for the time that they spend on a given activity and perpetually be in that mode forever. Because there are people who want to grow, who have aspirations, who have career milestones. There are some who don't. So how do we sort of equally engage both and pay the premium for the skill that they bring in and provide each of them their own space? So that's what I would advocate. So shorter notice period, create more than one model for organizations to explore. In that way, you're not adding capacity just because you can, and then you have to shed that capacity when you don't have demand. So you can leverage a much larger industry bench rather than have it all in-house and then deal the consequences of excess capacity and the market's not in your favor. The current model of talent fulfillment in IT organizations largely dependent on creating an in-house recruiting team or upskilling somebody that's already available to the newer skill that you want them ready or hire from campus and get them ready, or go to a partner who can help you further. But for a vast majority of the internal recruiting function and the partners ecosystem, the available market is the same from now on. It's about how you're able to curate, how you're able to understand the demand, how you're able to pre-vet, validate for skills, and then provide the most relevant candidate to the most relevant opportunity. So organizations will have to either look at migrating to credentialed talent pool over time, because right now everybody's in a hurry to fill those positions to make their schedules work and projects and work delivered on time. But the effort involved in the whole sourcing, screening, getting them to that point where you can pick that one person. So the yield is as low as 2 to 3%. And we'll start with 100 candidates at the top of the funnel. You're looking at a 2% at the bottom of the funnel. And if the entire effort is going to go inside, then we just are looking at a huge amount of cost being spent in finding the 2% talent. What if we can identify the 2% talent beforehand, and then the entire effort is just expended in communicating the opportunity? And so it reduces almost 60-70% of the overall hiring effort if it is pre-vetted in a way that is matched to the hiring context of the organization. And so companies will have to either invest in tools or partner with companies that provide these tools to ensure that they minimize all that other 70-80% of the noise of the not 100% relevant candidates coming through to your doorstep. How can organizations move from whatever they have in terms of 60 or 90 days to a 30-day notice period? Obviously, it's going to be very difficult to implement it on existing workforce, and that involves a lot of noise. The easiest way is to actually make sure that all new hires come in with a new policy. And, typically what we've seen is in a 3-year horizon with industry, let's say, hoping to get back to a 10% growth rate next year and 15% attrition. In a 3-year time frame, 75% churn happens. And so the next 3 to 4 years. So you will have the majority of the people that work for you in the new policy. And therefore, you can start small just by impacting people that are coming into the organization. Hey, I'm your host, Sriram Rajagopal at Diamondpick. Join us next time for another episode as we continue to bring this around talent in HR. We hope to provide food for thought for organizations and individuals to make choices around policies, practices that could enable better economics for everybody.